Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Yevamos, Parak Zayin, chapter 7, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. Now, in the previous Mishnayos, we have learned that marriage to a Kohen can allow a woman to eat Truma. Marriage to a non-Kohen disqualifies a woman from eating Truma. So now we're going to talk about not marriage, but actually cohabitation outside of marriage. What kind of effect could that have on the woman's ability to eat Truma or not? So the Mishnah reads like this: Ha'ines v'mafate v'hashaita. An Eines is a person who forcefully cohabits with a woman, an unmarried woman. We're talking about now. We're not talking about married woman, unmarried woman. But he forcibly cohabits with her. V'mafate, or he convinces her, this unmarried woman, to cohabit with him. V'hashaita, or let's say he's considered someone who is insane. He is halachically insane, which means that even if he were to be married, according to Torah law, it's not a marriage. In all these cases, the Mishnah says like this: Loi paislim, none. So therefore, getting back to the person who's the shait, is the insane person. Whatever act he does in marriage or out of marriage is really considered an act of cohabitation outside of marriage. So we say in all these cases, Loi paislim, they do not invalidate a woman from eating truma. V'loi machilim, nor do they have the ability to feed a woman truma. Now, we'll elaborate on this as we get on. But the idea is that these acts are not automatically going to invalidate her because of a wrongful act of cohabitation, nor will this act of cohabitation give the ability to a non-Kohen's daughter, to a non-Kohen woman, to a non-Kohen's daughter, to now eat truma, if, let's say, the Kohen was the person who, a Kohen was the one who had cohabited with her. But if these people, any of these people that we're talking about, are not fit to enter the congregation of the Jewish people, which means they may not marry a Jewish woman of proper lineage, then they will invalidate. That means that if this person who cohabited with her, it could have been willingly, doesn't have to be unwillingly, it could have been willingly, but as a person she may not marry, like a mamzer, then the act of cohabitation with the mamzer or anybody else that is forbidden for her to marry, that act will invalidate her from eating truma. Which means that if she be the daughter of a Kohen and she would, become widowed or divorced without children, but because she cohabited with this person who is forbidden, she would never be able to eat truma from her father's house. If she was a non-Kohen woman, but she did this act of cohabitation again. If she were to marry a Kohen, she couldn't marry a Kohen. She couldn't marry a Kohen. Anyway, so that's kind of, that would be anyway. Now, so let's see how the Mishnah now goes through the cases here. Ketzad. How is this? What is the case here we're talking about? We just spoke about a case of these three people, the three people who are, again, cohabiting outside of marriage. They do not invalidate, they don't feed. What does that mean? Ketzad, what's the case? Yisrael Shaba al Bas Kohen. A Yisrael, non-Kohen, who cohabited with the daughter of a Kohen. Just cohabited. Didn't marry her. We know that if you were to marry her, what would happen then? She doesn't eat truma. Because she's not married to a non-Kohen. But here, she didn't get married to the guy. She cohabited with him. Okay. And she's the daughter of a Kohen. She's still living by her father. Can she eat from her father's truma? The answer is, toicha b'truma. She may eat truma. She didn't do anything. She didn't do a proper thing, but she didn't do the kind of act that's going to validate her. She's not married to the non-Kohen. That disqualifies her. And she didn't do any kind of forbidden act with a person who's forbidden to marry her. That would invalidate her. Now, next, Ibra. Let's say she became pregnant from this act. Then lo yisaycha b'truma. Then she can't eat truma. We had that before. If a daughter of a Kohen is carrying a child from a non-Kohen, she is disqualified from eating truma. We had that before. Now let's say the child died inside her womb. That means she's not going to have this child. There will not be a child from her. She will not be having a child from this non-Kohen father. Then toichel. Then she can eat truma, because if she has offspring, if she has children from the non-Kohen, then that invalidates her. But if, let's say, she at the end of the day didn't have the child from the non-Kohen, or let's say she had the child and the child died. At the end of the day, if she doesn't have children from this non-Kohen with around anymore, she can go back to her father's house and eat truma. Okay? So that's the case of where the Yisrael cohabited with the daughter of the Kohen. Now we have the next case. Kohen Shabal Bas Yisrael. It was the Kohen that cohabited with a Bas Yisrael, with the daughter of a non-Kohen. And again, it was not done within marriage. If he would be married to her, he'd feed her truma. But he's not married to her. He just cohabited with her. Again, whether it's the person who forcibly did it, whether it's the person who convinced her, whether it's the shaita, the insane person, he's a kohen, and he cohabited with the Bas Yisrael, the daughter of the Israelite, with the non-Kohen. All right, truma. Just because she cohabited with a Kohen doesn't allow her to eat truma. She's not married to him. Ibra, let's say she became pregnant from the Kohen. Again, she still can't eat truma. Why? Because we said before, a fetus, even if it's from a Kohen, doesn't have the ability to feed truma to others. Okay, doesn't have the ability to give the right of truma to others. Yolda, she gave birth to a baby Kohen. Toichal, now she could eat. That's the halacha. If you have a child from the Kohen, right? If there's a child from the Kohen, if this non-Kohen woman, she's not from a family of Kohanim, and she now has a child from a Kohen, that gives her the ability, that child gives her the ability to eat truma. So the Mishnah then says, Nimitza koicha shoben gadol mishalav. It comes out that the son has greater power than the father. The father of this child didn't have the ability, didn't give her the right to eat truma, but his child does. So this is the case of the Mishnah, when the Mishnah said that when you have these people who are happening outside of a marriage, and there's nothing wrong with their lineage, these are people she theoretically could have married, but she didn't marry and said she cohabited. The Mishnah says it's not going to validate her. The act doesn't make her invalid, but it doesn't either give her the right for truma. And these are the examples that we just read. Now, the Mishnah also said, but if, let's say, the person who happened to her was not Roy Levi B'Yisrael, wasn't permitted to marry a woman of regular, proper lineage, like a mamzer, like an isin, then they invalidate her. Because at the end of the day, right, she wasn't allowed to cohabit with them. If a woman has a forbidden act of cohabitation, it disqualifies her from ever eating truma. So in that situation, that's where the Mishnah says, these are the ones that invalidate, and examples of that will be given for later as the Mishnah continues, and to be continued.
Come back tomorrow and find out.
Right, correct. Make sure. Okay. The Chofetz Chaim had mentioned that there are situations where, if there is evidence to what this person is saying, this person said Lashon Hara about a person, and there is evidence to what he said. So the Chofetz Chaim said, well, if there's evidence, then we say that if we're talking about that he did actually something wrong, he did a sinful act, and there's evidence to that point, well, then we said before that that's something that people can take into mind. You're allowed to accept it to the point of, let's say, distancing yourself from that person. However, if it's talking about something where you can give him the benefit of the doubt, you can have all the evidence in the world that what he did, but that doesn't take away from giving him the benefit of the doubt. But again, you will have situations where, based on evidence, that you will, to a degree, be able to accept. So now the Chofetz Chaim says, "V'dafka mehem nikarim mamish." They have to be, it's called Devar Nikarim. The evidence is called Devar Nikarim, recognizable things. Things that make it recognizable that what he said is true. So he says it has to actually be recognizable. What does that mean? Number one, they relate directly to the story. They have to relate directly to the story. And this person who's laying out the evidence, he saw it himself. Meaning this person who's speaking of Lashon Hara, he's trying to prove it. Well, he has to prove it based on the fact that he himself saw the evidence. But let's say, it's partial evidence. It's not directly related. The word it says is it's actually they're distant. They're not direct, but there's some kind of evidence of sorts. Or he didn't see it himself. Heard it from other people. Other people told him these pieces of evidence, but he himself never witnessed it. In that situation, there is no advantage. There's nothing more substantial. There's no more substantiation to what you're saying. If at the end of the day it's not direct, and that person himself who told it to you, what he's saying is not direct, or he himself didn't see it, it's something he heard from others, then the idea of this evidence means nothing, and he's just speaking Lashon Hara. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.